Rams 26, Giants 25. Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And don't mind the background noise. The fireworks, they're starting to get lit. It's 6:15 in Florida. They're starting to get lit. Justin, you were at the stadium today. I feel like this was the best of both worlds for Giants fans today, right? And specifically the fans of the Giants, because, man, you saw some really good things like that are transferable into the future, right? Like, you know, the way this offense could be operated. Obviously, you saw some negatives in it too. Defensively, like not some great game, but you also saw like the positive signs of Wink Martindale defense, which we'll see. But at the end of the day, the Giants still have a chance at the second overall pick and are currently at 5th, where if they won, they would, you know, be lower and have a, you know, at best could be 5th in that. Justin, how are you?
Bob Skinner, I'm good, man. It's great. It's great to be talking to you. Had a really had a good day at MetLife Stadium. Like, everybody was awesome from the tailgate, from inside to the stadium. Everybody saying hi. It was fun. But it's so crazy how, Bobby, you get to the second half and you have the explosive play to Slayton. You have, you know, some other plays to Wandale, and Hyatt had some big plays in the second half too. And I think around the same time, like, you tweet out like, oh, the future's bright. I'm really excited to see, like, get a quarterback in here, and I'm really excited to see how this team and how this offense evolves. And man, that's my main takeaway from this game too. I feel like the future is bright, and I think if you lose this game in September and October when the season still matters, it's infuriating, because there's so many reasons why the Giants should have and could have won this game.
A lot of self-inflicted wounds and some coaching weird issues.
So, I mean, those things are still there 100%, and those things do need to be cleaned up, including with a lot of guys that, you know, will even possibly be on this roster next year. But after all the adversity the team has been through this year, to make a team like the Rams so uncomfortable and to fight like that is really, really fun. And I don't want to understate this. Like, the Rams are a good team. Like, they are a very, very good team, and they have good players, especially on the offensive side of the ball. And Bobby, I've been through enough home losses over the years, especially like late in the year when games don't matter, to take small victories like this. And whether you watch this game and you're really mad and you're really upset, or it's like, oh, I'm a Giants fan and I'm tired of moral victories, well, then that's fine, and you have every right to feel that way. But I don't know, just being there, seeing a team fight like this against a Rams team that I think can actually go to the Super Bowl and possibly win it, I enjoyed my time at MetLife Stadium today, and I'm really excited about the future of this team and how they could get better.
Yeah, what I'm happy with is, like, although this season has sucked, right, and we'll probably do a little more of a funeral on the season next week after the game, like, I still feel pretty good about people in place, and starting with Brian Daboll, right? Like, there's, you know, we've fired 3 straight head coaches after 2 seasons, right? And to me, rightfully so, despite the fact that I think if you kept Gettleman, you should have kept Shermer, that decision maker. But at the end of the day, like, I was on board for firing Gettleman and Shermer. But now we're going into year 3, and there's really no talk of that, right? Like, there's some issues, right? Like, this Wink Martindale saga, we'll find out in a week from now. Like, there's some issues, but I feel good with Brian Daboll as a head coach, and the main reason that is the offense, right? Is that I've been watching all year, guys open, you know, quarterback not be able to play up to the level, you know, talent, you know, offensive line issues, talent lose out, but I've always felt good about the offensive coaching, and this game to me reinforces that. Now, maybe a lot of shit changes a week from now and who stays and who goes, but like Tyrod Taylor, showed who he is, right? Which is a great backup quarterback. But a great backup is not a good starter, right? Like, it very much reminded me of my film review when they signed him. Of like, man, there's some shit on here that you just don't see backup QBs do. There's some great throws. There's some starter level quarterback play. And there's also like these weird spells of inaccuracies and some
head scratching stuff. Yeah.
Like, just, you know, total gaffes under pressure. And we saw both of those things. So that's what kind of makes me feel good, is like, if you can get a quarterback into this, and, you know, we'll see where they are draft-wise, but it's like you do feel good about it, right? You saw talent get elevated by coaching today and quarterback play.
Yeah, and even some of the guys that you have, too, like Darius Slayton. This is back-to-back weeks now where, with Tyrod Taylor and throwing it deep, man, what a throw by Tyrod that was just hitting him in stride. So funny how you watch that game Saturday night where Jared Goff hits Jameson Williams in stride, and it's like, man, when's the last time that a Giants quarterback has really hit a receiver in stride like that? Boom, 24 hours later, Tyrod Taylor does it to Darius Slayton, and it's a touchdown there. So what a beautiful throw. I think that's the best throw of the year. So you see back-to-back weeks now, Darius Slayton with some big plays. Wan'Dale Robinson continues to emerge. Jalen Hyatt had, a drop early in the game, but then in the second half, makes some big plays. And, if teams leave him one-on-one, I mean, good luck. It's like, Jalen Hyatt, he's gonna outrun you, and if a quarterback can get it out in front of him, hopefully Jalen Hyatt's gonna be able to catch it. Plus, you still feel like, we're saying this like excitement about the future, and while also acknowledging that, yeah, there's things that they need to add. We're not saying that the team's perfect. We know that they need to add O-line. We know they need to add another receiver, and that's why I am excited about the future, because
they're able to do this without that shit.
Right. Now they're not winning, and it's not perfect, but you're able to see the coaching, and I feel like the things that are really important, and even some of the baseline players of Darius Slayton, Jalen Hyatt, Wan'Dale Robinson, I mean, even Hodgins as like a wide receiver for, almost having a touchdown catch today and still being okay as the year goes on. That's like good signs. It's like good positive signs. And I also like how it's being dispelled a little bit, because we've been arguing this since Eli Manning took his downturn as Giants fans. Can you throw the ball deep even with bad offensive line play? And the answer is maybe not always, but yeah, you still can. You still can push the ball down the field even though your offensive line is bad.
And especially if you have a big arm quarterback, right? Which Tyrod Taylor's not he's not had some massive arm, right? But what he is able to do is he can still get that ball down there while not having, stepping up in the pocket, all his cleats in the ground, right? Like that pass to Darius Slayton was 62.1 air yards. That's the longest since, for a Giants quarterback since they started tracking that in 2018.
Wow.
It was the second longest of the year by 0.1 yards. And the second longest since 2018 was last week to Darius Slayton from Tyrod Taylor. So it's like, and that's where there's a huge difference with Tyrod and Devito in a lot of areas. I think the biggest area is the quick game, but one of those other areas is that deep middle of the field. Like that's an area that can really change the way teams play you. And you saw them take advantage of that with the Slayton touchdown, the Hyatt play that got called back for holding, where with Devito, he threw an interception twice on that versus the Raiders and the Cowboys, and they just eliminated that from the playbook. Like he just doesn't have the arm talent to make those types of throws, even with his feet set, let alone, not fully set. So, but it showed off like what you can do with the big arm QB, and that's going to change the way, that's going to open up stuff underneath. So now, and we got a lot of time to go, and maybe they don't even get a quarterback this year, right? Like if they end up fourth, right, and the first three picks end up being QBs, like I'm still excited if they're able to get their hands on Marvin Harrison Jr. or somebody. So yeah, let's talk about this game. But I know we've spent a lot talking about the future, but I do want to ask everyone. This is the first time we ever asked this. Well, if you listen on Apple or Spotify, please subscribe too. Subscribe on YouTube. Want to get a nice little subscriber bump to start the year of 2024. I don't think we've ever asked people to subscribe on YouTube for the podcast. So subscribe, like and subscribe, I guess some people. Like, this will be the last episode that they listen to of the year, even though we're not going to do our whole thank yous for the season until Friday, Justin. My thing to you is our offseason coverage does not slow down. Like, We're still putting out podcasts, film breaks down, the draft. We are going, the Senior Bowl. We're going at 1,000 miles per hour. We don't really slow. The only thing is you get one less podcast app a week, but our coverage is still full throttle. I
think we're busier. I honestly think we're busier. Like I think I'm looking at my month of February and I'm looking at my month of March, and I think it's busier than what we're doing in the season between the Senior Bowl and all that stuff. So we have a lot of fun. We're gonna do a good job. We're gonna crush it. And this team is gonna get better, and we're gonna talk about it. But yeah, I mean, subscribe on YouTube, because that really will help us out. And even if you're I know a lot of people probably watch and you don't subscribe, it would help to subscribe. What I want you to do, thank you, by the way. What I want you to do, you had a tweet, and I try not to read too much of your stuff on game days because I don't want to have the same thoughts as you. You had a tweet where you went through like Tyrod Taylor had X amount of yards, but all of these scenarios and all of these situations were yards that were left on the table or opportunities that the Giants offense missed. Because we're talking about good things about the Giants offense, right? And how, we're excited for the future. They threw the ball deep, some explosive plays, yada, yada, yada. I also think they were not great, but they were much better on early downs to try and set themselves up for positive third downs or just avoid third down altogether. Talk to me about that tweet that you had and some of the missed opportunities that we had on offense, since we did lose the game.
Yeah. So I put Tyrod Taylor had 319 yards with a 32-yard drop by Hyatt at the beginning of the game, right? The first drive of the game, they ended up punting on third down. You had the 47-yard pass to Hyatts taken away due to a penalty, right? I mean, that's 79 yards right there. You had multiple drops. Like Saquon had 2 drops. Sterling Shepard had a drop. Shepard's totally in his head. He said it. He actually said it on a podcast with Pat Leonard.
Yeah, I feel bad, man.
He's like, anytime I get in, I'm thinking you got to make sure you catch this ball or you're not going to get another opportunity.
It's kind of like Golladay last year.
He's kind of had a few drops this year. Feel bad for him. And then Tyrod Taylor on his own just had multiple big misses. Like there, that rail wheel route, Saquon Barkley had a touchdown, and he just flat out missed him on that, right? Isaiah Hodge, now that one is not as egregious as a miss, but if he puts that ball more ahead of him, that's a touchdown to Isaiah Hodgins in the red zone, right? And he's leading the team in receiving touchdowns if he catches that. That second down towards the end of the game, or second and long, where Matt Parrott gets beat and Tyrod Taylor's kind of working to his left. Darren Waller's wide ass open for like a 25-yard pass, misses that, and then the biggest, most egregious one is the 2-point conversion, where he just gets in his own head and misses Saquon Barkley. And he said in his post-game press conference that I was thinking about running, but then I decided to throw, and I just flat out missed it, right? And that's the bad of Tyrod Taylor, right? And you also had, the interception on the throw to Slayton where that was a bad decision where he just misread the coverage. There was a lot of bad in there too, but I think that's what excites us is neither one of us think Tyrod Taylor is some great franchise. He's a great backup, but he's not a franchise, quarterback, but he did give you the opportunity to have a lot of big plays too.
Yeah. I mean, his EPA per play was in the 25th percentile, minus 0.13 EPA per play. His total EPA was minus 7.5, which was in the 17th percentile. His CPOE was at 1.5. That's what Ben Baldwin's model has it. But Next Gen's model had him at, I believe, minus 3. Yeah, so Next Gen's model had him worse at minus 3. So, I mean, this is like Tyrod Taylor played I think he played like a bad game. There was a ton of missed opportunities and a ton of like not great throws, and that's what metrics like EPA per play and total, like they'll penalize you for that kind of stuff, for missed throws and stuff like that. So played a bad game, but we're still talking about an offense that was explosive and an offense that definitely did not do enough for the Giants to win the game, but they had an opportunity to, and we can see you could see a foundation for success, and they really didn't run the ball at all. Like never on first down. There were only 4 first downs that they ran the ball this game.
Yeah, and I think Tyrod was a couple of those.
Right.
The rushing game is just bad, right? It's been bad all year. Saquon had 12 carries for 39 yards, 3.3 yards per carry. Had a 5 of 12 runs were successful, 41%, which again, he's 45th for the season. He's 45th of 47 players in success rate this year. And to me, that is much more of an offensive line stat than it is. That's not even much more. It is an offensive line stat. It's not a Saquon stat, which is also the argument against, paying Saquon Barkley as well. It's not a shot at him as a running back, but more the running back situation. So the running, like that's, there's things that, again, I'm not sitting here saying they're a quarterback away from being a top 5 offense. Like, the offensive line absolutely does need to improve, and they need to fire Bobby Johnson. We'll talk about John Michael Schmitz in a second. Right, so you need offensive line issues. Like, the running game needs to be more successful. You can't have one of the least successful run games in the NFL, or the least successful run game in the NFL, and expect to be a really good offense. But there is signs that they can get this shit figured out under this coaching staff, and it's not going to take moving heaven and earth to get there.
The Giants' offense was average last year, right?
Honestly, they were above average, like 15th in scoring and like success rate and EPA per play. They were, top 10.
That's a lot of, and then this is a lot of it. That is because they just didn't turn over the ball, which I don't know. Sure,
but they did the best they did with their personnel of having David Sills and Marcus Johnson starting.
You're right. I would say, I mean, what were they points per game?
They did that. They also did that without being the least explosive offense in the NFL.
Correct.
So it was on purpose and fitting to their personnel.
Correct.
So it's not like they were.
My overall point is that last year, like, the Giants' offense was an average to an above average unit, and you saw the coaching and you saw this coaching staff fit to their personnel, like Bobby said. I think if you see, again, I'm not advocating for, the Giants need to be this running and gunning top 10, top 5 explosive offense in the NFL. If they simply just go from a point where they are dead last every year in the same damn category since 2019, they were still bad in it, even though we thought Daniel Jones was gunning it around the field. Basically, since 2019, where they've been bottom quarter in the NFL in this one damn metric that so closely leads and is so closely correlated with wins and losses in big plays, whether that's running plays, whether that's passing plays. If they simply get better in this one area, it will lead to success across the board. And even if they are average in that one category, a Giants offense that is consistently average makes you better. The Giants had an average offense last year while being dead last in the category that is most important on offense, and they won 9 games and they won a playoff game. It could get better, and I really hope that it will get better, and I have faith that it will.
Yeah. Again, a week from now, we'll have some more big picture conversations.
Yeah.
Here's the... And after a season like this, most underwhelming award has a lot of competition. After 2021, you really could have... I think like 18 people got votes, and you could have made like a strong argument for 7 or 8. Last year, it was only Kenny Golladay and Evan Neal, and one of those guys didn't even play. I'm not going to go with this guy, but the last couple of weeks have been pretty bad, right? And this is where the offensive line coaching shit just drives me nuts. And I really hope that they move on from Bobby Johnson. And not just move on from Bobby Johnson, but go out and try to get the best. Not get someone who you're familiar with and have a working relationship who you think is going to do better than him. But go out and make it treat this offensive line coach search the way you would a head coach search. Because John Michael Schmitz has been struggling, right? And yeah. I know Kobe Turner's been a really good rookie, but you're both rookies. You were a rookie that was drafted higher than Kobe Turner, and he got worked. And there was other defensive linemen on that team, not named Aaron Donald, that were working John Michael Schmitz. He had a bad week last week, and he's also starting to make mental mistakes too, right? Where earlier, the first 8 to 10 games, right, was John Michael Schmitz killing it? No, but I thought it was actually pretty decent center play, right? And a good technique and stuff. He was using his stuff. He wasn't making any mental mistakes. And there was just some guys in the NFL who were more athletic and stronger than him, right? That's the way the NFL is with some of their defensive tackle play. But now he's consistently not setting into to that full man with defensive linemen, and they're just beating him they're just penetrating to the gap that he's blocking. And it's consistently happening, right? Whereas has he been coached now to having a fear of not oversetting and getting beat inside the way he did versus Micah Parsons week 1 versus Dallas? Because it's he's doing things, and then with stunts and stuff, this won't probably go as a sack on him, but you saw this happen a couple weeks ago. If he goes to help with Aaron Donald, he gets too aggressive, and then there's a guy who's stunting, who he should be there to account for, is just running right past them, right? Where in reality, it should have been an easy pickup. So there's mental mistakes. You know, to me, it's not about the physicality and his, you know, him not having that elite athleticism, right? Like, we always knew that was stuff that was going to hold him back from probably being like an elite center, but it's the stuff that, like, it's been disappointing. Like, and to me, there's been regression from John Michael Schmitz. Like, my biggest issue in the middle of the season was, like, with the offensive line coach, is like, you're not seeing anything new added to JMS. Like, all of this is the same stuff he did in Minnesota, which is good. Like, there's good technical work in the run game. He works leverage excellent. Like, so there is good film that John Michael Schmitz puts out. This isn't like an Evan Neal situation last year, where it's like, this is just a bad player. There's really not much good about it. JMS puts up some good film, but the negatives are getting worse as the season goes along, which to me points to a coaching issue. Like, JMS obviously has his own flaws he needs to work through, but to me there's coaching issues with his offensive line, and I'm going to be devastated if they don't have a new offensive line coach a month from now.
Yeah, it feels inevitable, but it's really disappointing to hear you talk about, like, how JMS sets and, like, he's not, you know, establishing that full man relationship, because I thought that was one of the things he did best at Minnesota.
Well, he did that very well the first half of the year, and then the last, you know, 4 games or so, it's like there's this fear of oversetting, so he's not setting aggressive enough, right? So it is. I mean, he did this stuff well in the beginning of the year. So to me, it points to coaching. Yeah,
man, crazy.
I do want to clean up some other stuff on the offense. Darius Slayton, man, again, becomes one of my favorite players on the Giants, because he's going to lead them in receiving again.
Yep.
You know, 4 catches for 106 yards and a touchdown today, first 100-yard game since Week 5 of 2020. You know, he's only 40. He needs 46 yards to pass his career high in receiving yards. So I hope he's able to get that. He's another guy, man. Like, he's been, like, him and DJ have had a pretty good connection, but he is someone who can benefit from having, you know, that big arm QB. And you say, well, he's not a wide receiver 1. I think that's one of the best things going for Darius Slayton. It's like, he's not a wide receiver 1, and he still leads the Giants in all these categories. Like, you know, one of our talking points was when they signed Golladay, it's like, this helps Slayton, because this is going to help Slayton get one-on-one coverage. And it did, right? Remember that beginning of that year, Slayton was just getting open deep one-on-one coverage that he wasn't getting the year before. And then once Tony started to emerge, and once Slayton actually missed only 2 games of his career for injury, Tony started to emerge, and he kind of got put in the doghouse by that coaching staff. And then they went to Mike Lennon and Jake Fromm. So then that was the only year he didn't lead the team receiving. Like, do you don't think this guy could benefit from the Giants having a wide receiver 1? Which, again, I hope is a priority for the Giants this offseason in the draft. Like, if they're not drafting Marvin Harrison Jr., Malika Avers in the first round, my hope is that second round produces that wide receiver 1.
Yeah, for sure. I even heard Wan'Dale Robinson talk after the game too about he doesn't feel like he's fully healthy yet, which was kind of, you know, it was kind of strange to hear him, like, admit it. But he's like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm fully healthy yet. You know, he's like, at this point, it's a little over 12 months that he actually tore his ACL. He came back in like 8.5 months, and you know, we've been saying on the show for years that it's the second year off the ACL that the guy is going to look his best. So I'm really excited for him. We're really excited for Hyatt. Like, you know, with those crux of those skill position players, we're really excited. Now Waller,
77 yards and a touchdown for Wan'Dale.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Hyatt, then we could talk about Waller.
Sure.
Is Hyatt, I'm confident Hyatt's a piece for the future, but there is a lot of growth that needs to happen to his game to become a major piece for the future, right? Like, he had that drop, but he also had that big play, right? So those are the things that Hyatt's going to do, but there's so many little things that he needs to improve on that aren't just like, oh, it's easy because it's a little thing.
Yeah.
But like last week, there was a play where it's like, oh, DeVito should have thrown this to Hyatt. And I agreed it should have been thrown to Hyatt, but he releases inside when he's supposed to outside, right? And like he's still open. That ball still probably should get thrown, but that can spook a quarterback, right? Where it's like, oh, he released inside. I'm not throwing that ball deep to him. That gave the safety an extra 5 yards to catch, make a play on that. And then today on that 4th and 1, and Dable actually talked to him and was like, "You knew it was fourth. Did you know it was fourth down?" They run that shallow cross, which they've started running with him a little bit, and he just doesn't run it deep enough, right? Because there's a defensive line at the end of the line of scrimmage, because he's tighter to the formation. Like, he doesn't want to run into him, so he just runs it, a yard short of where.
Again, this just ran backwards.
This is a 1 yard route, right? Like, I'm not saying he's got to get, I'm not saying you need he got 7 yards of depth and need 8. We needed just 1.5 to 2 yards of depth on this route.
36 inches.
And he doesn't get it, and that's the difference between a turnover and downs or a conversion. So there's a lot of little things that need to get into him. I'm not going to get on him for, one drop. He's had really good hands on deep passes this year. He's had a couple other drops on the season. So I don't view that as an issue. And you saw he had a 49-yard pass taken off the board, not for his fault at all. Had the third down 20-yarder, whereas Tyrod Taylor was able to find him. So there's good things, but there is a lot of little things that he needs to grow on from this offseason to become a more consistent player, where he's not, because right now it's funny, Justin, we said at the beginning of the season, like, hey, I know we all shit on that Cowboys receiver coach, but he was right about Hyatt.
Yeah, kind of right.
Yeah, he can't really run routes yet. Like, his speed is a threat. Now, round 3, pick 73, I'm fucking doing, like, I'm retaking him 10 times out of 10. Without looking at, well, I guess I'd go Puka, but you know what I mean. Like, that's still to me a great pick.
Yes,
but there's a lot that needs to grow from him this offseason to become a more consistent player. And honestly, it all starts within the first 3 yards of every single play, and I think that can help him a lot if he just works on the release. And I don't know about getting bigger, but he's just got to get better with release, whether it's physicality or taking the right way or getting the right depth on certain things.
Did you see his train like a giant video?
I did not, actually. I saw. No, I didn't, actually.
They might tweet some of them out, but it was very hilarious that so they play these things during commercial breaks at MetLife. It's like, "Hi, I'm Jalen Hyatt. This is how I train like a giant. I don't really lift a lot of weights. I don't really stretch that much because I've always kind of just been naturally loose and fast. I kind of just like run and." I'll eat a little bit of this and eat a little bit of that, and that's how I train like a giant. And I found that John Michael Schmitz was there today, be like, "Yeah, twice a week I'm benching and I'm squatting, because it's important for those offensive linemen to move guys, and then I have fruit, and then I have this, and then I have that." And Jalen Hyatt's like, "Yeah, I stretch a little bit, I don't really stretch that much. I'm kind of naturally just very fast and loose." That always made me laugh.
He is
Look it up.
very fast, so you gotta give him credit for that. You wanted to talk about Darren Waller?
I kind of do, man. He needs to catch that ball on the sideline, right? I mean, it was a bad throw.
It was
by,
too far. Like, here's the thing: I don't want to penalize balls that are just like that are out of Darren Waller's grasp, and he doesn't catch them. And we're like, well, just be fucking Darren Waller. Well, it's like, just put the ball a little, a half a yard closer to him, right? Like, there's been times where I'm like, I want Darren Waller to make a play, but I'm tired of like my criticism being like, hey, you're wide open, but the guy fucking missed you, so just kind of be spectacular. Like, I'm kind of tired of that too, where it's like, why is this guy being penalized for being like? And still, he had 6 targets, 5 of 51. The one target that he didn't turn into a completion, he was missed on what would have been a 25-yard pass.
Yeah,
and that's if he just catches it. It's a 25-yard pass. If you throw it to him in stride, it could be even bigger. So we'd be talking about, oh, Darren Waller, 6 catches, 85 yards. Damn good game for him. He's second on the, he's second in the team receiving despite missing the most games out of anybody in the receiving group. But it's like, why don't you make some, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not going to penalize a guy for quarterbacks missing him, which has happened with every single one of these quarterbacks this year.
I thought he looked fast today. I mean, that was one of the main things that I was trying to see as we end this season, because it's like I know he can get open, and
he is fast. He's just not very super agile down once he gets going. Like, he's agile in like the short area. Once he gets going, like, he's 6'6".
Yeah, which is fine. But I wanted to see. I don't know if it was the 18-yard play But I wanted to see, it's like, oh, are you still fast? Like, are you Darren Waller? And there was a play that he had that was like, oh, that's fast. That's Darren Waller's speed that I'm, that I wanted to see. And it's probably the biggest disappointment of the year isn't necessarily that, like Darren Waller has been bad, because I think there's a lot of circumstances around him that explain to why he hasn't been as productive, but I think the disappointing thing is that if they have stable quarterback play and if they have a little bit better offensive line play, I think Darren Waller would be as advertised. Maybe not as training camp where he's getting the ball every single down, but it would be as advertised as to how much we did hype it up over the summer.
Yeah, I mean, most of his games coincide with Thomas being injured. And that's one of the things we're going to look back at this season is all these years we've talked about how important Thomas is, and you really did see it, right? Like the guy's truly so important to this Giants offense, and his health is like priority number one going forward.
Oh, didn't even mention the Wandale run, the rushing touchdown that he had.
Yeah,
Andrew Thomas and John Michael Schmitz leading the way on that. So
slapping the bitches, popping the hose. They were getting out in front, and Wandale had some nice moves on that play. Awesome stuff by Wandale and the guys up front. By them. Yeah, like I said, 87 total yards and a touchdown for Wandale. A very good game for him. Had a big catch at the end of the half. So, last thing I want to talk about, Giants offense versus Rams defense. Guess who had a tackle for a loss? I want to give you a hint. I've said this guy's name like 5 times in a row, multiple times.
On the Rams?
Yes. Think of draft coverage, where I just keep saying this guy's name over and over again.
Oh, it's Mr. Irrelevant.
Desjuan Johnson Toledo. Desjuan Johnson Toledo. Desjuan Johnson Toledo. I've never been more excited for a negative Giants play because they're like, tackle for loss by Desjuan Johnson. I'm like, Desjuan Johnson. Desjuan Johnson. Toledo, Mr. Irrelevant. All right, let's go. Last 5 Mr. Irrelevants, Justin. Desjuan Johnson.
Sure. Brock Purdy. Know it.
Grant Heward, linebacker out of Houston.
Tay
Crowder.
That's right.
So since I've been paying attention, I got those down. Grant Heward's on the Bucs. I think he's still on the Colts. Let's look it up. Is Grant Heward still on the Colts?
Pick him up.
Or not Grant Heward, Grant Stewart, I meant. So does that count as remembering it? Yeah, he's still on the Colts, I think.
Hell yeah. Pick him up.
Yeah, he's on the Colts. How about that? Let's take a time to read an ad.
Go to the tailgate next week. Shop.johnboymedia.com. You click on events. The link is also in the description. We have one more tailgate, and that's it until September.
I was just going to not read an ad and then move to the defense as a joke, but yeah.
I'm glad that we had an opportunity to promote the tailgate next week.
I just wanted to confuse the listeners, being like, "What happened there? Was that like an automatically placed ad that they forgot to put in? What happened?"
No, we never do automatically placed ads.
I wouldn't say never, because anyway, defense. Wink Martindale's. This was a game where, like, you kind of had a Wink Martindale wreaks havoc type of a game. You also had some really bad moments in there, but at the end of the day, playing the Rams, I thought there was more good than bad coaching-wise and just, player-wise. On the money downs of 3rd and 4th down, they were 2 for 9. You had 3 of your sacks on those. Their 2 conversions were a 4-yard run by Kyron Williams on 3rd and 2, and then the 80-yard Puka Nacua catch, which we will talk about. All 4 sacks were off of the Wink Martindale blitzes, right? Whether it was Bobby Okereke, Isaiah Simmons at the end of the game, and the Jihad Ward one where he like shows that, like, hey, I'm going to be the guy who drops in the line of scrimmage. Offensive lineman slams down, he runs in, gets a sack. And they didn't press up and play a ton of man coverage because of who they were playing. You had no Deontay Banks, and you're playing against a great receiving duo of Nacua and Kupp, and your zones kind of worked, right, where they played a little too off the first drive of the game, and they were able to drive down. But you started kind of squeezing in on those zones at the end of the game, and it forced Stafford to try and make some tight throws. And like that Dane Belton first interception, right? Was it an overthrow by Matt Stafford? Yeah, but it was an overthrow because that's honestly a throw that Stafford shouldn't be making. if you're drawing up on a whiteboard, but because it's Stafford, he feels he can fit that shit in there. He overthrows it. Dayton Belton interception. So, we'll talk about the Adoree and, how you held them up. The biggest issue, though, is they just can't stop the run successfully, consistently. Like, they have the guys to have a decent amount of negative, run plays per game, but they just, we talked about Saquon bad success rate. Kyron Williams had successful runs on 12 of 20 plays. That's 60% in this game. The running back lead high this year is Aaron Jones at 60%. Kyron Williams is right behind him at 59.9. And 2 of the unsuccessful runs were the last drive of the game, where they were just trying to run the clock at, which ended up being a bad decision by McVay and Stafford.
Yeah. I wonder how many of those runs, I'm trying to remember it on the top of my head. I think not having corners that are, Nick McLeod was playing in this game. I think he's fine against the run, but having corners that are just not interested and are not very good in run defense really does hurt you more than you would think.
And more than you would think. And usually that's hurt them this year. That's helped them on outside runs. And this game versus the Rams, where they used Nacua and Kupp to come in line and block, right? That's why they fit the Rams so well, is because they block so well. That's when they, the Flauts and the Adorees, Jackson. So I had a tweet, man, and you know me, I don't like to go at players' effort and stuff. Adoree to me was playing soft as fuck today, right? Whether it was taking on tackles, taking on blocks, and I'm like, man, this guy just is not looking for contact, right? He is doing, he's actively avoiding contact in this game. Then he forces a fumble, and it's like, oh, how about that, Bobby? Then you see it, the Puka Nacua 80-yard play. I mean, that's Adoree had him tackled 5 different times, but he just lets him go, and that's that again. If this was a game that mattered, that's the difference between winning and losing stuff there by Adoree Jackson, right? It felt like a game where he's like, I know I'm a free agent. I want to get to free agency healthy type play. I mean, because if Adoree doesn't go soft on that play, you hold Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp to 72 yards combined. That's a hell of an effort, but instead, they go for, 145 combined, which is still pretty good considering those two guys, or at least average. And it's because Adoree got soft with a tackle. And again, one of their 2 third-down conversions was Adoree Jackson giving up the play and then tackling as soft as can be.
Are you talking? You said there was a Cooper Kupp play? There was one where he took a really bad angle, and then he had an opportunity to tackle a guy from behind, and then he just didn't.
Yeah, and it was taking on blocks. There was one tackle he did make, but he just he pulled what Trey Hawkins got benched for. Whereas he didn't do any form. He just literally bent at the waist and hoped that it would tackle him, right? He was to me, he was actively avoiding contact in this game. It very much, if there was one player who's the being eliminated from the playoffs affected, it's Adoree Jackson. It very much felt like I need to get to free agency healthy. And it didn't show up too much in individual plays until the Puka Nacua, which again, if you play that consistently in the game, it's going to show up, and it showed up.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to get hyped about a forced fumble on a play that he got beat. Awesome. Good job poking the ball out. Love that. But that doesn't excuse all the other shit.
No, he was not ready to play the game of football today. You could say, he covered well, whatever, this or that. The game of football is a violent game. I think back to, how my father raised me on the game of football. Violent game. You got to be ready to rock and roll. You got to be ready to, dog eat dog. Adoree Jackson was not ready to play a football game today. And I probably since Antonio Hamilton was the last time that I got very mad at a corner for just what are you doing? That's the last name I could think of. Darnay Holmes is just small and he gets mossed, but at least I think he tries. His holding call really hurt. We'll talk. I think special teams is usually the final segment of the show. But Adoree Jackson was not ready to play the game of football today, and that was really, really, really upsetting from somebody who, I view his tenure and his time as a Giant as very successful, and I think he is an underrated player, but really leaving a sour taste in my mouth over how this year has gone, simply with his willingness to come up and tackle and play the run, which that was something that I viewed as a positive his first 2 years
great.
here.
I mean, his first 2 years here were great, right? Obviously, the missed games play into that, but on the field, they were outstanding. I mean, I voted him most outstanding defensive player in 2021, and in 2022, he was right up there until one, he got hurt, and then Dex just really took off. As the season went along.
Yeah, so disappointing.
So yeah, I mean, and he was pivotal in the playoff win versus the Vikings, right? You saw the huge difference of the 2 games playing Justin Jefferson, one with Adoree, one without. So yeah, that was frustrating to see, and I do think his time as a Giant has 1 game left on it. And honestly, I would not be shocked if they have 1 game left and they kind of set a statement, like set a standard, like, hey, you're done. We got 1 game left. We'll play Trey Hawkins over you.
I'd be okay with that.
Which I do want to have a Trey. We're getting a little long. Mailbag. There's 3 things I want to hit on mailbag. Trey Hawkins, Kayvon Thibodeau. Maybe we'll just actually don't ask about Kayvon. We're going to use the same question.
No, we're going to use the same question. Yeah.
And then the other one is shit. What did I have? It was
something about Saquon. We didn't really talk about Saquon during the first half, and we had some thoughts on him before the show. He had a drop.
Saquon did have a drop. I don't think it was on about Saquon. Nah, that's really bothering me. Of what I can't remember.
All right, well, you think of it, because I have something that I want to say about Wink and the defense, because we started talking about Adoree, we started talking about some individual people. I said it at the top of the show. I don't want to brush aside. Just we're a Giants show. We're going to talk about the Giants, right? That's what we do. But I don't want to brush aside. The Rams have been a top 3 offense in the game of football. It's been the 49ers, it's been the Cowboys, and it's been the Rams since week 10, like the second half of this year. The Rams have been a top 3 offense in football. EPA per play-wise and efficiency-wise. They've been really good. Matthew Stafford, like all 22 people, they're clipping up Matt Stafford making all these crazy nutso throws to Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, and Demarcus Robinson, whoever. The sidearm stuff, the arm angles, the arm slots, and fitting it into tight windows. And it, if you listen to the preview pod, it's like, I think the Rams have a good shot of winning the NFC. And I kind of still think that after this game. But, if you get a team that is willingly all right, we want to blitz and we can bring pressure, Matt Stafford can get rattled. And, you saw that even in his time with Detroit and making some bad decisions, but he hasn't been doing that towards the second half of this year. He's been scary freaking good, and Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua are scary freaking good together, and the running game is there, and the offensive line is coming together. So even though, there's moments in this game where, you don't love some things from Wink Martindale, but again, I look at who on that D-line, besides Dexter Lawrence, is really making a difference and is dominating the game. No one. Bobby Okereke dominates game. Good Mike linebacker. We know Wink Martindale likes that. Who in the secondary is really locking it down? I think there's some more liabilities in the secondary, especially when Cordell Flott's back there, which Cordell Flott is it's most frustrating player on the team because he has good moments and then he has really, really bad moments. What Wink Martindale is doing right now, I think he almost single-handedly, again, helped win the game for the Giants. Putting Matthew Stafford in uncomfortable situations, making throws that he hasn't been making towards the second half of this year. He was rattled. Matthew Stafford was rattled, and he did not know what he was seeing. And I'll read the quotes nothing crazy, but the quotes that Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay had to say after the game. Matt Stafford, this is from Dan Duggan. Got to give the Giants a lot of credit on defense and Wink. They present about as tough of looks as you can present to an offense in some of those situations. Sean McVay, I've got a ton of respect for Wink Martindale. He does a great job. I thought their players executed well. This isn't necessary. You know what? This is Wink propaganda. This is Wink Martindale. This is Wink Martindale propaganda. Keep the freaking guy in the building.
Yeah, man. It's Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens a week from now because, I was pretty pissed at the Saints game, but Wink has showed up since then, right? He's showed up since then. And it's going to be tough to swallow that they fumbled it. And again, they're not fumbling this because this is not a breakup out of, to me, just, you're doing a bad job coaching, which is like, I want to keep these coaches intact outside of the special teams coordinator and the offensive line coach. I cannot remember what it was, but it is what it is. Bobby Okereke, has a couple sacks, makes some good plays in the run. He has been so much fun to watch. And that's another play. Like, I hope he gets a year 2 in a Wink Martindale scheme. Right? Like, yes. I don't want to put him back in a different scheme. I want to see him do what he's doing in this scheme and to become a better, grow in coverage, grow as he's feeling the run game. Like, he's been awesome to watch, grow as they add, hopefully, better defensive linemen and guys that they can trust. What do you think about Dane Belton? How it's I'm going to look up the stat. Like, he just creates turnovers. Like, the guy's first play in the NFL was recovering a fumble on a kickoff. And ever since then, the guy just has turnover. Every time he's on the field, the guy's creating turnovers.
It's the Nico Lelos effect. No, but it's crazy. It's why I picked him to lead the team in interceptions, because it just feels like the ball finds him. And it's crazy that Jason Pinnock was in a walking boot in the locker room after the game. If Dane Belton gets one more interception next week against Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles, and nobody else gets an interception, then he will lead the team in interceptions despite playing, maybe 300 snaps this year? That's my guess. I'm going to see if that's really wrong.
So it's got to be less than that. He had 2 interceptions last year. He had 2. So he had 4 turnovers. He had 2 fumble recoveries last year, 2 interceptions. I think he led them last year in turnovers when you consider that. I think he was tied with the interception. He was tied for the interception lead last year. This year he had
185 defensive snaps leading into this game. So I was almost right with 300. Let's just if he played 50 snaps today, that's 235 snaps.
He had 2 interceptions and a fumble recovery. How many fumble? Oh my God! With these fireworks, for some reason I can't pull up his fumble recoveries for 2023. Maybe he didn't have one before this, and that's why. Anyways, maybe that's why it's not showing up in the Dane Belton game logs for 2023. But it's very fun. And honestly, none of them are great play Dane Belton either.
No.
The one versus the Texans is good, but the funny thing about that is, remember that he gave up a touchdown on the same exact thing, and then they called a penalty on holding or something, and the Texans ran the same exact play the next play, and he got the interception. So, the other one was versus the Eagles last year, and then obviously fumble recoveries. Those are basically right place, right time stats. It's very funny how the guy just created turnovers. They had a few in training camp too, I think, right?
Yep. Got a nose for the ball, they say.
So, let's see. What else do we have from this game? Gunnar Olszewski, punt return touchdown, 93 yards. How about that? Special teams, take that and shove it up your pipe and smoke it. Thomas McGahee, he says to all the Giants fans, even though they missed an extra point, almost had a kick blocked, but there was a penalty, and then they missed the game-winning field goal. We did really never talk about that end-of-game sequence.
Yeah. It all started with, it was a really bad punt, and Gunnar, returns it to the 40-something yard line, and then Darnay Holmes gets a holding penalty, brings them back 15 yards, and instead of the Giants starting at midfield, they're starting at the 35-yard line, and that's those 15 yards are, a very big difference in, it being a 53-yard field goal and, maybe a 40-yard field goal. So
yeah, and so they ran the ball on 2nd and 10 on that draw play. Dable was pissed about it, and when asked about it, I was like, yeah, I'd want that play back. And they asked him, well, is that a play that, you just call a run, or was that checked into? And
what did he say?
Like, I just rather have that play back.
Because Tyrod said that was the play. Tyrod kind of confirmed.
Tyrod did say that?
Yeah, I
Okay,
think
then
they
it's
asked
on
him.
Dable. Because Tyrod would tell the truth if he did check it.
Yeah, Tyrod was like, that was the play. Like, I think they asked him, like the reporter asked him, like, do you want that play back or did you not like that play call? He was like, no, that was the play. I don't call the plays. So he very much made it clear, at least in my opinion and how I was listening to it. Tyrod Taylor made it clear that was the play call. I mean, I understand why you're running it because you don't want to throw an incomplete pass and then the Rams get to save a timeout, but at least run it under center. Like I can't stand the second and long shotgun run. I kind of lose my mind.
One is a draw play too, which
takes even longer to develop.
Yeah.
Blocking tight end.
I'm really hoping the Chiefs don't kick a field goal here for the spread picks. They're up by 5. If they kick a field goal, then they cover the spread. Shit. How about the Tommy DeVito chants? Were they loud, or was it the typical like the Yankees?
It wasn't loud. No.
So I've learned that the Yankees reporters, anytime there's any booing, they will tweet it out because it gets a lot of interaction. Like, what percentage of the place was chanting for Tommy DeVito?
10. But here's the thing. You heard it, but it wasn't like loud. It wasn't like rah, 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 rah. Because I mean, here's like Tyrod would make a fucking terrible throw, and then he would make a good throw, and then it's just whispers. It's whispers.
Yeah,
whispers.
The reaction to that is over. That's just one quarterback. Anytime, like that's always going to happen. Chanting. I remember I was at a Bucks game where Josh Freeman was the quarterback, and I cannot remember who their backup was, but it was like this. You cannot ever put this guy in for a Josh Freeman type backup, and they're chanting for the backup. People don't even know who the backup was.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna. And obviously, DeVito has some fanfare, but I did get a little bit of a kick out of that.
It was happening.
Someone responded to our game trades like, you guys said Tyrod Taylor was so much better than DeVito. I was like, I did the Dumb and Dumber gif of like, yeah, actually, this is the example.
Just because we're calling Tyrod Taylor better than Tommy DeVito doesn't mean we think he's Joe Montana, but we think that he's better than Tommy DeVito.
Which is the issue. It's like, anyways, That's why I made such a big deal about it. It's like, I do believe DeVito lied to the locker room, right? Like, there's no way that...
You mean Dable?
Yeah, Dable. Like, there's no way he thought he gave them the best chance to win, and they kind of proved in their action that they were never really invested in his future. But anyways, I'm one more game, Justin. One more game. So we will be back for a mailbag, and then our final preview pod, which still... I'll be on... So... This Chiefs, we'll see. It's going to be close. Also, I won't give away too much for the final preview pod. Danny had a great game in fantasy, the second best game of the season.
Whoa!
In fantasy, so we thought it was over. It ain't over. So we'll get into all that. Any other thoughts or any things that come across your mind?
No.
Did you hit 25K followers? Because we are currently 6 hours away from me doing the final tallies of the year.
I think the bots. I lost like 18 followers because of bots. So I'm sitting at 24.972. So I think I'm going to be ending the year with 24.9.
That's the thing is like you I guess happened to me. It's like you just lose all these followers. Like,
I mean,
like
at one point I had 29.99, and then just
I saw that. It's they just like you said, the bots are out of. Which is like when Elon said he was taking over Twitter, that was the main thing. And it's become an issue since he took over Twitter. Where before it was like not that much of an issue unless you were like on politics Twitter. Where now it's a major issue. So anyways, appreciate you guys. We will see you Wednesday for a mailbag pod. Hope you guys enjoyed the new year and all the college bowl games that come with it, and I hope you guys enjoyed can you hear the fireworks in the background, Justin?
No, but maybe we'll be able to hear it on your when I listen to your good audio.
How about that? All right, we appreciate you guys. We will see you on Wednesday. Until then, let's go big.